My name is Ache, and I just want to start by saying thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot to me. I hope you enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can relate. Sometimes it's so hard for me to accept the fact that I, as a human being, make mistakes. I know it sounds crazy, right? And I know it's inevitable for me to make mistakes because I've made so many of them. But the amount of time I spend beating myself up about things that I've done, it's almost too cruel. I am very much aware that everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. I'm just kidding. I'm playing. But I'm aware that everyone messes up and everyone is capable of hurting others, whether it's physically or mentally, whatever. But for some reason, I can't get myself to fully accept this concept of not being perfect within myself. I recently realized that the reason why I think this way is because growing up, my meaningless mistakes, like spilling water on the floor, crying when I'm sad, being forgetful, talking too much in class, it costed me a lot. I used to get grounded all the time and in trouble in school constantly, and it slowly but surely chipped away at that concept of it's okay to make mistakes. Because it wasn't. A lot of times I felt like I was getting punished when it wasn't justified, and it planted a few personality trait seeds in my head. For one, I became dependent on others' approval of me because I didn't want to get in trouble. Two, it became hard for me to think for myself, and I couldn't make an independent decision without consulting my friends or trusted family members. And three, I just don't trust myself. And I always second guess myself out of fear of messing up. Wanting approval is one thing, but needing approval is not okay. For the longest time, I've always been a people pleaser. I hated when people were mad at me, and I didn't like disappointing others. And just the thought of letting someone down would haunt me. And I wish I was joking. Like, a lot of my dreams are highly influenced by the things that are going on in my life. And any type of guilt will always haunt my dreams because my anxiety would be at an all-time high. When I was younger, a big reason as to why I always wanted to be on everyone's good side was just in case I did anything wrong, people would be more forgiving of me because they liked me. That was like my mindset. It was like some sort of malicious thinking. I don't know. You know, when you meet a friend of a friend for the first time and they're just not nice, like they just have a terrible attitude and they're just insufferable to be around. And then when you bring it up to your friend that knows them, they're like, oh, don't worry, that's just how they are. And you learn to love them. You'll get used to it. These are the type of yes men I wanted in my corner, but I never got it. I'm actually really happy now that I've always had people to put me in my place and be honest with me about my behavior. But growing up, it would make me so anxious because I felt like I failed as a friend instead of being able to understand that it's okay to make mistakes. And when someone that cares about you is telling you what you're doing is wrong or not okay, you're able to change accordingly and grow from your mistakes or decisions. I'm just glad that now I'm able to receive any and all feedback from people. And now my biggest issue is within myself and teaching myself that it's okay to change from the mistakes or bad decisions that I've made. My battle now is within myself. And I rather that than fighting for the approval of others on the outside because living for others is never worth it. When it came to not being able to think for myself and always having to consult other people before making decisions, this is the one that I'm actively working on because there's a lot of things I will not do without consulting someone first. And I'm not 100% sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing in general. But for me personally, I don't want to have all my decisions be made by someone else. I'm working on doing what I think is right first and then talking about it. It's hard for me because I always want to make the right decision. I'm doing like air quotes. And I always feel a way when I talk to my people about something that I've done and they're just like, oh no, girl, why did you do that? And I'm here like, wait, I thought in the sense that it literally gives me firsthand embarrassment. And I'm really trying to remind myself that I'll always try my best to do what's right for me. And if that's not the option that others would choose, that's okay. You can take their advice if you feel like it's right, and you can learn for the next time. Obviously, this is easier said than done because I clearly haven't mastered this mindset yet. But hey, God's working on me, so. And all this is a clear indication of not being able to trust myself. I can't wait for the day that I'm able to fully trust myself in the way that others trust me. Because I feel like I failed myself so many times in the past, I feel as though my thoughts and decisions cannot be trusted. And it sucks. And I also think that this is a way of mentally protecting myself from different outcomes. Because I don't need to trust myself if I don't make any decisions. This is why being okay and forgiving yourself with the things that you've done is so important. You need to give yourself grace and treat yourself like a friend. If you trust your friends, you should be able to trust yourself the most. And plus, not being able to trust yourself just further enhances the other 2 points that I mentioned. And as much as I love my trusted friends and family, I don't want to have to depend on them for every decision that I make. And I don't want to depend on them for a sense of ease because they approve of what I'm doing. You got to have yourself before anyone else has you. And it's a mindset. I'm glad that I'm aware of these things now because nothing is permanent and I can actively begin to change these traits because I'm aware of it. A few things I started doing to help me when I'm really struggling with a mistake or a bad decision that I made is, first and foremost, I take a step back. I just step away for a second and I start to practice deep breathing. When I realize I just messed up, I become extremely anxious to the point where I've gotten panic attacks because I'm so fixated on what just happened, and it can become difficult to get out of that anxious feeling. With a quick Google search, I learned that controlled deep breathing can reduce stress and anxiety, it can improve attention span, it can help calm your nerves, and many other things. And alongside breathing, I recommend meditating. There is so much research done on meditation that you can look into, explaining why it is important for us to meditate. It makes you more self-aware, reduces negative feelings, helps you be more patient. The list goes on, honestly. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I meditate every day because that would be a lie. But when I do, it does give me a chance to be one with myself and God and to really listen to my body, listen to the Holy Spirit, and learn more about my emotions. The more I learn about meditation, the more I realize how beneficial it would be to implement this practice in my everyday life. So I'm working on it. Another thing I do that helps me when I've made an awful mistake is I talk about it. Whether it be with a friend, a therapist, a trusted family member, or God, I will talk about it. A lot of times we make a bigger deal of something or a situation when sometimes it's not that deep. Or sometimes the decision you made was the only option you had, and that's not your fault. Talking about your mistakes out loud in a judgment-free zone gives you a chance to hear yourself, and in return, you may catch yourself saying something and realize a point that you may not have thought about previously. For example, have you ever told somebody a story and while you're telling the story, you say, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, or you know what, I just took in that. And just like that, your feelings can change and you can have a different perspective. And plus, sometimes you'll realize your mistakes aren't even mistakes. Because a lot of times when we decide to put ourselves first, other people might feel like you've made a mistake for doing that. And because of the lack of trust we have in ourselves, or because of the reaction the other person had to our quote unquote mistake, you begin to doubt yourself in that moment and you think you may have messed up, when in reality, you did nothing wrong. And in addition to talking things out, you might get good feedback or reassurance that may help you move forward as well. However, sometimes you might not feel comfortable talking about your mistakes with other people, and that's totally okay. An alternative to this would be journaling or voice journaling. Regular journaling is pen and paper or the notes app. It's writing down your feelings and just letting your thoughts take over the writing process. Honestly, for me, regular journaling, especially pen and paper, is just not for me. I hate writing. I do, okay? I feel like my thoughts move faster than my hands, so it makes it hard for me to write everything I want to write because I'll just forget. So, as an alternative for that, I make voice journals. What I would do is go to the voice memos app on my phone and I would just talk to myself for hours, literally. I'm pretty sure my longest voice note journal was like 2 hours, 3 hours. And I was just venting. You just find a quiet spot and just get all your thoughts out. No filter, no judgment, just you and your phone and your thoughts out loud. It's a great way to catch yourself because the same, wait, now that I'm thinking about it, type of moment that you've had when talking to someone else is the same moment you can have when speaking out loud while voice journaling, especially when you hear them back. I don't usually listen to them back, but when I do, let's just say I learn a lot. One more thing that I do that helps me is that I constantly try to remind myself that making mistakes and messing up is all a part of the human experience. I do this by literally telling myself randomly throughout the day, Ache, you're human, it's okay. This is normal. This is the experience. Trust yourself. And hopefully, eventually, I can believe it so that I don't have to keep reminding myself all the time. And honestly, out of all the things that I do to help me, this is the hardest one. Because depending on the mistake that I've made, sometimes I feel shame or embarrassment or disgust with myself with what I've done. And it's like, I can't believe I did that. But this is why reminding myself that it's okay is important. Because yes, it is okay, but this is a learning moment and let's not do that again. I actually made a poll on Instagram asking if people have forgiven themselves for the big mistakes they've made in the past, and majority of the people said no. And it literally broke my heart because it's very difficult to move forward in life if you haven't forgiven yourself for the things that you've done in your past. At least I don't think so. It's so hard to find peace within yourself without forgiveness. But I get it. I understand. Sometimes there's mistakes that some people just cannot come back from. And it haunts them so much that they can't even forgive themselves, even if they wanted to. Mistakes are a part of our personal journey. I got this quote from a TED Talk that I'm going to post in the caption called Mistakes We Make and the Practice of Self-Forgiveness. I really like this talk because it was coming from the personal experience of the speaker. They talk about what the mistake they made was, what the mistake did to their mental health, and the steps they took to practice self-forgiveness. I highly recommend you watch this video if you are someone that is having a hard time forgiving themselves for the mistakes that you've made. It might not make you change your mind or how you feel, but it might give you a different perspective that can help you move forward on your journey through life. On the brighter side, now I see a lot of teachers and parents explaining to their kids why the things that they're doing or did was wrong without yelling at them, without roughing them up, without the because I said so type of explanation. I can only imagine this being extremely helpful for the new generation. They're being taught to take a second to think about what they did. They're being walked through their emotions with a trusted adult. And then they're being reassured that it's okay to make mistakes and then being taught how they can learn from their mistakes. And that's so beautiful to me. A lot of us didn't have that guidance, but with our own experiences, we're able to guide the youth and teach them in a way that makes sense and that's reasonable. The best thing about life is that nothing lasts forever, and that includes your shame and your guilt. Talk to God about it. I hope with the new experiences in your life, you find clarity and wisdom and strength to forgive yourself and to find that inner peace your soul desires. Super unrelated to anything I just said, okay? I'm so sorry. Super off track. But I just had my final exam on Saturday and my summer officially begins today. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very excited. I have so many plans for this summer and zero expectations. And usually anything I have zero expectations for turns out to be a great time. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But if you hear about any patio parties coming up or you find any outdoor activities I can do, please let me know. DM me, email me, do what you got to do. But I need the flyers. I want to know the dates. I want to know where it is. I want to know where to go. I want to know who's going to be there. Tell me the DJ, send me everything. Okay, because I'm going to be outside. But only day parties, please. I don't do the night stuff. It's not for me. Anyway, send this to a friend and who knows, maybe they can relate.